Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. Um, this is Sonia Keeve. I am the CEO and founder of Sisters with the Voice Podcast Network. And as Facebook is letting my audience know that I am here, I am super excited that you have tuned in. And so we are going to talk about a topic on now that you have launched your podcast. Perhaps it has been some time since your initial launch, and now you are wondering, how do I maintain a successful podcast? And so this is a question that I often get because people are ready to kind of take that next step. And so as you have launched it, one of the things that you can do in order to maintain a successful podcast is that you always want to make sure that you are creating value. And so, with this idea of creating value, your value is with your expertise. You want to be able to continuing to connect with your audience with the value that you bring. And it's not enough to just show up, right? But you also want to have a purpose in what is the goal and the result that you want to have to help create value for your listening audience. Because guess what? There are millions of podcast shows out there. They're growing by leaps and bounds. People are continuing to build and broadcast and launch podcast shows because they understand the value that comes with that, right? And so when you are coming up with your content for your show, you want to make sure that you are creating value. And as people are tuning in and watching this broadcast, please let me know who you are and where you are tuning in from. And allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sonia Keeve, and I am the CEO and founder of Sisters with the Voice Podcast Network, where I teach and train women entrepreneurs to build, launch, and monetize powerful podcasts in 30 days. And so we are talking about how to maintain your podcast after you have launched, and a successful podcast after you have launched. So you definitely want to make sure that you, number one, create value. Your content that you create for your show must create value for your listening audience to tune into. And so this is the perfect opportunity for you to outline what topics that you want to talk about each and every week, and then understanding what is the message, what is the content, what is the deliverables that you want your listening audience to walk away with from your expertise. And you want to create some value. So always think about what are some steps you want your listening audience to take, because it's not enough for them to just tune in and listen. They're coming to listen to you because you are the solution. So make sure that your content is creating the value that connects to your listening audience, so that not only they get the transformation, but that they will continue to show up to download and listen to your show. And guess what? They will also let their friends and family and send out referrals for people to tune into your show. So creating value is the number one way that you can help maintain a successful podcast. Number two, you want to make sure that you are consistently showing up. It's not, if you decide that I want to have a weekly show, decide the day of the week that you're going to show up, and for however long. So if you're going to show up once a week for 30 minutes, you want to make sure that you are always creating content and showing up consistently, because this is the long game in podcasting. And so people are developing a relationship with you, because initially people are tuning in because they know you, right? And so if you are not showing up consistently, you cannot build a successful podcast show. You will lose your listening audience if you're not showing up consistently. consistently. So the way to make sure that you show up consistently is you always want to make sure that you have your pre-recorded shows, at least 4 to 5 shows done in advance. Because guess what? Life happens, things happen all the time. And you don't want life to take over where you are not showing up consistently for your audience. Because if you're delivering value each and every week, trust and believe your listening audience is going to tune in to hear from you, to hear those juicy nuggets that you're going to drop, to hear the encouraging word that you need to share. Because guess what? With your podcast, you're going to be, with your content, you're going to be inspiring, educating, informing them. And so, whatever you do in the space that you operate in, with your expertise, you want to make sure that you definitely show up consistently. And this, what I have found from other podcasters that I've had the pleasure to know and meet in this industry, I have talked to veterans who have said to me, I have not launched a show in 6 months, or I took a break. And a lot of times that break that they take is because they weren't really clear on how they wanted to show up, and or they let life kind of happen that prevented them from showing up consistently. Because guess what? The value that you deliver will always be there. But if you're not consistently delivering that value, you can lose your audience, and then you'll find yourself not excited about your show, not excited to get with your audience and build that relationship. Because think about it, just think about relationships in general. If you are in a relationship, or you're married, think about those times when you were in that dating stage. You took some time to get to know that person, and you called them on the phone every day, or you had that time when you were, going to be with them. And, if you didn't call that significant other or spend that time, guess what? They were disinterested in you. And so think about your podcast show is that relationship builder. You are stepping out and getting to know your folks. And then once you've established that audience, the turn off will be if you are not showing up consistently. Like if you say you have a weekly show, but guess what? You haven't showed up for 6 months, honey, they have forgotten all about you. They don't care about your content anymore, and they'll go to the next podcast. So you don't want that for yourself. So definitely make sure that you carve out that time, that if every Wednesday at 7 p.m. you have a show, make sure that you are delivering that show to your listening audience. And then number 3, a way to maintain a successful podcast is being authentically you. It is so easy, especially for brand new podcasters, when they're building a show. They have an inspiration of someone who already has a podcast, and they love the way they deliver their message. They love the energy and the flow. And it's okay to have an admiration for that particular flow, for the way the show is done. But at the end of the day, remember, people are tuning into you. So how you sound, how you deliver your message, how you show up should be tailored to who you are at your core. You don't want to try to be like someone else, because guess what? No one else can be you like you. And even though you may have similar content in terms of ideas, like especially in the inspirational space, there are so many inspirational podcasts, and Inspiring Nations, my podcast show, falls into that category. However, I know that my delivery and the flow of my show, my energy, that's all me. And that's what resonates with your listening audience, because they're developing that relationship with you, so they know who you are. And sometimes people know when it's not your voice. You get me? People know. And when I say they know your voice, people know when you're showing up as yourself, or you're trying to show up as someone who is not like you. There's a certain way that you speak. There's a certain way you deliver your message. There's a certain way you deliver your content. And people can tell when it's not coming from a genuine place. So don't get caught in, well, this person over here has this successful podcast and they have thousands of followers and they're getting sponsorships and they're doing, I tell people, don't compare your year one to someone's year five. Everybody's journey is different. And so when you show up for who you are and how you are, that is when people will connect with you and you will have amazing raving fans for life. And you'll stay in this space of being a podcaster for a very long time. So just to recap, for those who are catching this live or may catch this in the replay, and of course, if you catch this in the replay, please comment below and say hashtag replay for those that catch it again in the replay. And so my name is Sonia Keeve, and I am the host of Sisters with a Voice Podcast Network, where I teach and train women entrepreneurs how to build, launch, and monetize a podcast in just 30 days. And so I'm just sharing 3 tips on how you can maintain that podcast long after you have launched it. And number 1 is you want to create value. People tune in when there is value to be consumed that's going to help either fuel a passion or solve a problem. So with your expertise, continue to create the value and people will continue to show up for you. Number 2, you want to make sure that you are consistent in your frequency and consistent in your time. So if you decide that you want to do a show once a week for 30 minutes, make sure every week on that day that you select that you are showing up and dropping a brand new episode, because as you're delivering that value, guess what? People cannot wait to hear the next episode, and they're going to be sure to tune in to what you have to say. And then number 3, be authentically you. It's okay to admire other people, but don't emulate their flow because only you can be who you are. Can't nobody do you like you, right? And so this is the long game. You're building a fan base, and in order to build that fan base, you got to show up as you. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to emulate what someone else is doing. You can take some pointers, especially if you're a new podcaster. But honey, as you're developing your show, you decide that you're going to show up who you are at your core, because that is what people resonate with. They resonate with people who are real. They resonate with people who are being vulnerable and sharing who they are, their trials, their triumphs, because guess what? People are learning from you the lessons that you went through. And so you're helping your listening audience to not go through what you did, but you're helping them to transform to their next level. And when you do that, you get raving fans that tune in, that refer you, that tell their friends and family, guess what? You need to tune into this amazing podcast. I heard she dropped some amazing nuggets. She has, great stories. She feels like, a family member, even though in the podcasting space, a lot of times we may not see each other visibly because a lot of podcast shows are done audibly. But guess what? They can even make the connection without even seeing your face. And so with these 3 tips, take this into consideration. So as you are launching your shows and now you've got some time in the game, and now you are, maybe struggling with, how do I maintain the same energy as I did when I launched it? Go back to the drawing board and think about, am I creating value? Am I showing up consistently? And am I being who I am at my core? And honey, be unapologetic about it all, because when you do, this will help you maintain this space to find the joy in podcasting, continuing to connect to new listeners each and every day, and to continue to bring a fan base that tunes in specifically to you, because you know who you are and you know the value you bring, and the consistency still is there. So thank you so much for watching this broadcast. I hope that you get some great tips from this, and share this broadcast with someone you know. And also, If you are interested in wanting to launch your own podcast show, I want to invite you, because guess what? We only have 2 days left. 2 days left. I am hosting a 6-week course entitled Launch Your Podcast in 30 Days. And in this 6-week course, you're going to learn how to create content, how to deliver value, how to show up and broadcast on a global space, and so much more. And so the class begins on this Sunday, February the 13th at 7 p.m. Eastern. And so if you are ready to launch your podcast show in 2022, I want you to join this next class and enroll. You can DM me for details on how you can register today, and don't miss your chance to launch your podcast today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you around. Take care. Bye-bye.